Hey guys, Drifter here. I've got a fun video today where we're going to be talking about the Dunning-Kruger effect. The gameplay that you're going to get to see is me playing Domination on Studio, yet again, because Studio is one of the most popular maps that everybody votes for in Black Ops 2. Gameplay's a little bit slow and derpy in the beginning, not so spectacular because I'm testing out a secret product that I'll reveal later on this week. But once I'm done with the testing, I'm going to pick it up, come back, get really close to a swarm choke, and you're going to get to see a little bit of very high skill gameplay and some chokes and some kind of derpiness, and that's going to be very relevant to the topic here, because as you saw the derp face on the thumbnail, we're talking about the Dunning-Kruger effect. This is a psychological principle generally regarded as true, or at least colloquially as true, and it goes like this. Highly competent people rate themselves as having lower skills or lower competency than they actually have, like say the rocket scientist that thinks that he's dumb, and highly incompetent or unskilled people rate themselves highly, or at least much higher than they are at any given thing, kind of like your Uncle Jimbo, who barely graduated high school, thinks he's smarter than the rocket scientist. It's kind of funny, you meet these in extremes. People of average competency or skill tend to rate themselves more toward the middle, but the extremes on each end have very different views of themselves. And I'm going to use the word incompetent a little bit here today. I don't mean it as an insult like you're all morons, but just actual competency at a particular skill. So I'm going to use skill a little bit too. And you do see this in gaming as well. I'll talk about Call of Duty for a bit. The guy that's on the other team talking trash about how good he is, how he's going to stomp everybody, about how he's the best player and that he could go pro, but they don't like his tactics and this kind of nonsense. How often is that person ever good? Like, honestly, guys, sit there and think about it. How often has somebody joined your lobby in Call of Duty and bragged about stuff and ended up just being plain old horrible at the game? I mean, for me, that's pretty much all the time. Very rarely do they ever actually live up to their bragging. And you can also see this. I play League of Legends a lot. You guys know I stream this. Pretty much anytime somebody joins my game and their tag is best champion NA or best whatever, or they say, I only play this lane, I don't do anything else, and if you don't let me do what I'm going to do, I'm going to feed. About 9 times out of 10, they're terrible. And that's generally what the Dunning-Kruger effect is in the gaming. And there's some reasons for this I want to talk about. There's a list here of like four things that incompetent people have a tendency to do. Number one is they fail to recognize their own lack of skill. It has not dawned on them that they are not the best players in the world. Like, they just can't physically or mentally understand their own lack of skill. Number two is that they fail to recognize genuine skill in others. Not only can they not rate themselves, but when they look at their enemies, their opponents, or their peers, or everybody else, they don't understand how good the other people are. They think they're just as good as the other people, or could be, or that the other people are in many cases not as good as them. And this is kind of like a psychological bias. You know, you always build yourself up to be better than the other people, but they're not able to look at it objectively and realize how far behind they are. And that gets to the next part. Number three is they realize how far behind they are. And like, some people know that they're like not the greatest at whatever, or that they're not the best in the world, and they'll rate themselves as average, or just, I'll say, like, I'm slightly above average, when no, in reality you're kind of bad. You still just overstate your skill. And the last one, which is kind of interesting, and this is where I would say really separates the good and the bad and the ugly, is they do not recognize the lack of skill when exposed to training. So when you take somebody, and this is just a skill-based thing, and you expose them to training on how to improve, or you expose them to somebody or some organization or group that's like really excellent at this, they don't they still don't recognize how far behind they are. Like, you show them how to get better, you show them these other people that are get better, and they still just don't quite get it. This is where I choked the swarm. If I'd have got this kill, obviously I could have got the swarm right there. And there was sometimes occasionally a fifth one added to this study, which I agree with more than anything. It's very similar to the fourth one. It's that they do not learn from feedback when they're exposed to training that suggests they need to improve. Now, the fourth one was just like, oh, you expose them to training and they're kind of supposed to see where they rate. The other one is that when you give them actual feedback, like you give them the test scores and show them how they rate in terms of incompetency, and the belief is the test scores are wrong, I'm better than that, the test is broken, there's something going on here, and they just refuse to accept that they're scoring how they score. Now, that was all the negative stuff. On the positive side of things, or actually on the more unusual side of things, it's that highly competent, highly skilled, professional type individuals, and this is not always in a professional skill, but sometimes even mundane task, they tend to rate themselves lower. They don't overstate the rating quite as bad as the low group. A lot of times in the low group, they think they're just as good as the professionals, or like close. The professional group rates themselves lower than they are, but not like crazy low or anything, but it's definitely lower than their level. And they have a tendency to have 3 different thought processes that are very distinct. Number 1 is, if a task is easy, then they assume the task is equally easy for others. They'll just say, well, this wasn't very hard for me, and I know that there are other people in this world that are kind of better than me, then therefore I must be rating pretty lowly on this one. Like, surely some other people can master this simple task and like blow me away. That's kind of the mindset. It's a very empathetic mindset, and perhaps overly pragmatic, because they're trying to think about things they don't even need to bother thinking about. The second thing they do, and this is one that I do, and I'm not trying to do like the humble brag, put yourself in the good group, whatever, but it's something I noticed that I definitely do. It's that I know that I made a mistake. In my own gameplay, I know that I missed shots. I know that I overextended. I know that I went to the wrong area. I pushed when I shouldn't have. I reloaded at a bad time. I thought the footsteps were farther away than they weren't. And I know that I made these mistakes, and I know that I made these goofs, and that if I made these obvious mistakes, therefore I'm not good. Good player, a truly good person, wouldn't make these mistakes. They wouldn't goof like that. They wouldn't choke. There would be no issues. And surely other people aren't, as dumb as I am and make these same mistakes and choke. When in reality they do. They make worse mistakes. A lot of times, as we discussed before, they're not even recognized or realized, but that's kind of how it pans out. And the last one is that, and this is mostly related to the professional group and not the random, mundane, small task thing, is I know the smart people, or the competent people, will rate. They'll say, I know that other people have done better. I know this other guy, he did this thing, he's top in the world at something. I've seen this professional athlete do whatever. I know that so-and-so is a genius and they score such and such on the test. And I know all these other people that have scored higher than me, that have performed better, that obviously are better at this thing. Therefore, I'm not as good as them. That's pretty obvious because I didn't get those scores. And if I'm not as good as them, then I'm not good. They're good. I'm not at that level. I don't qualify as good. Maybe I qualify as average, but not good. Good is that other like crazy level way up there. And that's kind of how the competent group rates themselves. And it's just kind of funny how this works. I guess it was something that we could maybe kind of know intuitively, or have a sort of intuition, or like a wives' tale about. You see this in literature and things like that all the time, so it's a part of human condition that we're aware of, but I've never seen it in a sort of written, studied fashion before, and I thought that you all might find this as interesting as I did. And again, the most interesting part of it is that the lower your skill is, the higher you have a tendency to overrate yourself, which man, that leads to all sorts of weird problems in how we organize our lives, and the jobs we choose, and the things we brag about. And I'm not even going to get into the subtleties and complexities of that. But when it comes to gaming, just keep in mind the guy mouthing off the most about how good they are probably isn't going to be that good, just statistically speaking. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.